Before the Roman legions conquered the known world, before their eagles flew over Britain and Gaul and the deserts of the East, they ate things that would turn a modern stomach inside out. The grain that broke empires. The sauce made from rotting fish guts left in the sun. The drink that doubled as medicine on battlefields where clean water did not exist. 3/4 of a legionary's calories came not from the meat we imagine warriors devouring, but from grain. Plain, brutal, relentless grain. Meat was a luxury, a feast day reward, never a staple. And yet, on this diet of strange pastes, sour drinks, and pungent cures, the Roman soldier marched 20 miles a day in 40 pounds of armor, dug fortified camps every night, and held a frontier that stretched from the fog of Scotland to the sands of Syria. These are the 10 foods that built the army that built Rome. Number 10. Celtic beer and local wine. On the cold, wet frontiers of Britain, Germany, and Gaul, where Mediterranean vineyards could not reach, soldiers drank cerveza, a Celtic beer brewed by the very tribes Rome had conquered. We know this not from legend, but from a remarkable archaeological discovery in northern England. The Vindolanda tablets, thin wooden writing tablets preserved in waterlogged soil at a Roman fort just south of Hadrian's Wall, contain direct requisitions for beer alongside requests for wine. Officers wrote home about shipments running low. Quartermasters demanded more from local suppliers. Beer was not a casual indulgence. It delivered B vitamins from live brewing yeast, helping ward off the deficiencies that crept into men far from the sun-ripened produce of Italy. When wine shipments failed in the frozen provinces, beer became the legionaries' lifeline. Officers preferred their imported wine, of course, but the enlisted man drank whatever fermented liquid the local landscape could provide, and the empire learned to brew with the conquered. Number 9. Hard mountain cheese, known to the Romans as caseus. Hard, salty cheeses pressed in the alpine valleys and the rugged mountain regions of the empire could travel for months without spoiling. Pieces of this ancient cheese have been recovered intact from Vindolanda excavations, sitting beside the bones, boots, and broken pots of the men who carried them. Soldiers' letters home mention it by name, requesting more from family or quartermasters. The cheese was often grated into the morning porridge or pounded into the thick breakfast paste eaten before combat. Fat and protein packed into a small, dense block that fit neatly inside a marching pack, alongside the iron tools and weapons. The harder the cheese, the longer the campaign it could survive. A wedge of mountain caseus was, in many ways, the original protein bar, designed for men whose lives depended on calories that did not rot. Number 8. Garum. A pungent, salty, almost violently flavored sauce made from fish guts, fish blood, and small whole fish, layered with salt and left to ferment under the Mediterranean sun for months. The smell during production was so offensive, so genuinely revolting, that garum factories were banned by law from the centers of Roman cities. Yet this same sauce was the empire's favorite condiment, drizzled over everything from senators' banquets to soldiers' porridge. Amphorae stamped with garum trade labels have been excavated at Roman forts from Hadrian's Wall in Britain to the Rhine frontier in Germany. Soldiers received it as a rationed condiment even on the empire's furthest, coldest edges. It flavored the bland grain porridge that filled their bellies each morning. To a Roman legionary, the sharp, salty tang of garum was the taste of home, even at the bottom of the world. Number 7. Lentils and beans. Issued alongside grain on disastrous campaigns like Crassus's doomed march to Carrhae in 53 BC, lentils and beans were the protein backbone of the marching army. A contubernium, the basic Roman tent group of 8 men who slept and fought together, would cook their lentils in a single communal iron pot over a shared fire. They were cheap, protein-dense, and stable for months in sealed sacks of tightly woven cloth or leather. Lentils could be boiled into a thick, warming stew at the end of a long march. They could be eaten cold, straight from the pot, when fires were forbidden because the enemy was too close. Roman dietary writers, those obsessive catalogers of food and virtue, ranked beans firmly as soldier food. Hearty, filling, fit for hard labor and harder men. Not elegant, not delicate, but enough to push a column of armored infantry across a hostile river valley. Number 6. Puls, the emmer wheat porridge that was the original Roman staple, older than bread itself. Before the loaves and the legendary white flour of late imperial Rome, there was puls. It was a thick gruel of crushed emmer wheat boiled with water and salt, sometimes enriched with cheese, sometimes with pork lard, sometimes with whatever the contubernium had managed to scrounge from the local fields. The Roman historian Tacitus wrote that the legions lived on puls for centuries before they switched to baked bread, and even after bread became common, puls remained the campaign meal. It was cooked in iron pots over campfires every single morning before a march. It was filling. It was calorie-dense. It was, perhaps most importantly, impossible to ruin, even for the worst camp cook conscripted from some backwater village. A pot of puls would fuel a legionary through a full day of digging trenches, building bridges, and walking into a wall of barbarian spears. Number 5. Laridum, salt-cured slabs of pure pig fatback. This was the legionary's calorie bomb on the march, the dense white slab of preserved fat that gave plain grain its strength. Laridum is listed by name in the Codex Theodosianus as an officially regulated marching ration, meaning the empire itself dictated how much fatback each soldier should carry. A palm-sized slab contained enough raw energy to fuel a soldier through a full day of marching in 40 pounds of iron armor and leather. It did not spoil for weeks, even in the brutal summer heat of Italy, Spain, or North Africa. It was sliced thin over hot porridge to melt into the grain. It was fried with beans to flavor an entire shared pot for 8 hungry men. For the Roman soldier, laridum was the difference between collapse and conquest, the silent reserve of strength tucked into every marching pack. Number 4. Posca, the iconic drink of the Roman legion. It was water mixed with cheap wine vinegar and sometimes flavored with wild herbs gathered along the march route. To the modern palate, it sounds revolting, sour, sharp, and acidic. To a Roman soldier, it was salvation. The acidity of the vinegar killed many of the waterborne pathogens lurking in foul streams, stagnant ponds, and slow-moving rivers along the march route. It delivered electrolytes through salt and acid, functioning as something remarkably close to an ancient sports drink. A Roman soldier, according to the Gospels, offered this exact drink to Jesus on the cross. It was not mockery. It was the standard issue ration of the man holding the spear, shared with a dying prisoner. It was cheap, sour, refreshing, and genuinely life-saving in regions where clean water simply did not exist. More than any other drink, Posca kept the Roman army alive between rivers and wells. Number 3. Bucellatum, the Roman hardtack. Twice-baked wheat biscuits so hard, so brutally dense, that they could crack a man's teeth on the first careless bite. Marching legionaries carried 3 full days' worth of bucellatum strapped to their packs at all times, an emergency reserve against the day the supply train failed. The biscuits had to be soaked in posca or stirred into hot stew to soften them enough to chew without breaking jaw or molar. But they lasted for months in a sealed leather pack without molding, without attracting weevils, without losing the dry, concentrated calories baked into them. This was the original survival ration, the food that Roman engineers, centurions, and frontier garrisons relied on for entire campaigns, in winter storms and summer droughts, when bread ovens could not be lit and grain could not be cooked. Hardtack kept legions alive when nothing else would. Number 2. Raw garlic cloves. Sacred to Mars, the Roman god of war himself. Soldiers chewed raw cloves before battle, biting through the papery skin and tasting the searing oil beneath, in the firm belief that garlic granted stamina, fury, and divine protection. It was food, but it was also ritual and prayer. Modern science has confirmed what the Romans suspected. Allicin, the sulfur compound released the moment a garlic clove is crushed between teeth, has measurable antibacterial properties. It boosts circulation, and it primes the body. Roman generals issued garlic deliberately to their men before major engagements, treating it as both ration and rite. The collective breath of a Roman cohort lined up before combat, 10,000 mouths reeking of fresh garlic in the morning air, reportedly preceded the sound of marching boots. The enemy smelled the legion before they heard it. Number 1. Laridum, the pre-battle power salad of the Roman legionary. Not a salad in any modern sense, but a thick, pungent paste pounded together by hand in a heavy stone mortar. It included garlic, hard salty cheese, rue, coriander, celery, olive oil, salt, and a splash of vinegar. Crushed and mashed until it formed a green-flecked spread aggressive enough to wake the dead. Ancient Roman sources record laridum specifically as the customary meal eaten on the morning of battle, before the cohorts marched out to form their lines. The flavor was bold, sharp, almost violent, designed to fuel a man through hours of close combat. It was dense in calories, fat, and protein, and it could be assembled in a field camp at dawn, with nothing but a mortar, a pestle, and whatever the supply train had delivered. This was the final meal, the last taste a Roman soldier knew before he stepped forward into the shield wall and met whatever the day had brought to meet him. So there you have it. The Roman soldier was, by ration, if not by choice, largely a vegetarian. He ate grain, beans, fat, vinegar, and garlic. And on that foundation, he carried an empire from the Atlantic to the Euphrates. When commanders needed to punish entire legions for cowardice or mutiny, they did not flog the men or cut their pay. They switched the wheat ration to barley. Archaeology and ancient texts both confirm it. Barley was the grain of disgrace, the food of slaves and beasts, and a legion fed barley was a legion in shame. These 10 foods built the army that conquered the Mediterranean, crossed the Alps in winter, and held the Rhine for 4 long centuries against everything Europe could throw at it. Drop in the comments which of these 10 foods you would actually try today, and which one would have made you desert the legion before the first march even began.